So it's been quite a while since I have made a Taizai video. It's been about 2 weeks now since the last video I made, which one of the big reasons is thanks to the holidays, which everybody knew, because with the holidays, the entire scheduling of chapters and stuff is all messed up. That's why we don't have a TG chapter this week, is because there won't be one this week. And I think we will have One Piece and Boku no Hero and all of that back this week, though, but I don't think we'll have a TG chapter. But anyways, getting right into it, though, basically, thanks to the holidays is why there hasn't been a Taizai video, but also something else that needs to be discussed. Apparently, the chapter did come out last week. There was a chapter, but the main translation group, MS, they didn't translate it. Now, the big reason for this most likely could be because of the holidays, which I'm not gonna, put anyone down for that. If you want to take a break, you're gonna go on holidays, that's completely fine. It's understandable. I don't fault anyone for that. However, apparently the chapter's been out for a while now. It's been out since after the holidays, like around Monday last week or Tuesday last week, it was around. And I didn't review it, and the reason why I didn't is because the translation wasn't relatively that good, and forgive me for that. I just didn't really like the translation. I wanted to wait to see MS's translation, even though they have made mistakes recently as well, thanks to the whole daughter thing with Merlin, which I will talk about in a second. Even though they made mistakes, I just am so used to MS's translation of Taizai that I was just waiting for them to have their release. And as the days continued to tick on, I was like, did they drop the project? Did they drop Taizai? Are they not going to be doing a translation to it anymore? I was kind of curious about that because the chapter obviously was out for a while now. It's been out for a while, and I was like, did they drop it? Are they not doing it anymore? Because, they have done this in the past. They have dropped series in the past, and they've stopped translating them. And, I know for a fact Taizai is not really translated by any other big group anymore. Only MS actually translates the series, and so we have to wait on their schedule for when it is released. I'm thankful that they're translating it, but this also does mean that they don't need to worry about any scheduling. For instance, they don't need to get it out every Monday. They can get it out on Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever time they want to get it out. So it makes it to where there's not really a strict, schedule for it anymore. It can just vary in days. And I was like, did they drop it? Because, no one else is doing it. Do they have that, initiative to even want to do it in the first place? I'm kind of curious about that. But, anyways, the chapter finally popped up today, and I'm glad to see it isn't necessarily dropped, and it did seem like, MS did pick up the chapter, so yesterday, and they finally got it translated, so I'm glad to see that. Just, yeah, I didn't review it last week because I was waiting on better translations, or just waiting on MS to actually translate before I could, talk about it. So there you go, there's my clarification. So let's talk about the translation error in the last chapter. So, it was made very clear in the comment section of my last review of Taizai that apparently, MS, they made a big mistake. They made a very big mistake with a translation, a little translation that really affected a lot of that chapter, and that was the, details to Merlin. We were told in the last chapter, well, with the translation I read, we were told that Merlin apparently was the daughter of the Supreme Goddess and the Demon King, and that information right there was just mind-blowing. Everybody was like, whoa, Merlin is the daughter of both of these two, which makes these two individuals like hypocrites because, they got on to Meliodas and Elizabeth for, having a relationship. So it's like, why would they do that? Like, why would they, do it themselves, but then they wouldn't allow Meliodas or Elizabeth to do it? And so it brought a lot of questions, and it's like, this really does complicate the plot. And for all we know, there could logically be a possibility for maybe she could potentially be the daughter of both of them. But that, right now, that is not the case. At the very least, in the translation that has been corrected and we now understand, she is not the daughter, so far from what we know of the Supreme Goddess and the Demon King. In fact, she was just the daughter of her village, Belilin, I think that's how you pronounce it or whatever. She was the daughter, like a precious daughter of that village, a child of that village, that was very neutral in the war between the Goddess clan and the Demon clan. That it was an actual faction that was just completely separate. They didn't want anything to do with it. They just wanted to be neutral. And one point in time, Merlin was born in this village, and she had the power of infinity. Now, I've already discussed this many times in the past, that Merlin's ability of infinity, it's just straight up broken. When you apply that to anything in terms of what she could do, infinity, that is downright broken. And I'm glad to see that Nakaba-sensei even actually acknowledged that fact, especially with how the Goddess Clan and the Demon Clan wanted to get their hold on Merlin because of how insane that ability is. Now, this is where it led to a correction of that translation. So, the reason why Merlin has the blessings of the Goddess Clan and the Demon Clan is because she made a deal with them. And now we don't know exactly the little nitty-gritty details. We don't really know why Merlin did what she did. I mean, we could probably take an educated guess and say this could be a glimpse into what her sin is. For instance, she is the sin of gluttony. So for all we know, maybe the reason why she got that sin in the first place is because she, was a glutton for power, knowledge. That's what she wanted, which has been a fan theory for a very long time. It's not something that is actually relatively new or came out of nowhere. Merlin seeking knowledge, wanting more knowledge and all that. It would definitely fit with the theme of her, the sin of gluttony, because I don't think Merlin necessarily is a pig that just wants to eat. So when you look at it like that, I just don't think that it had anything to do with food or with her sin of gluttony. It had to do with something with knowledge or power, and seeing that little glimpse in this chapter with how apparently she went to both sides, the Demon King and the Supreme Goddess, and she played them both like a fiddle just to be able to get all the knowledge. It does show a glimpse into maybe who she really is and how she got her sin in the first place. Now, we gotta remember one quick thing, though. We gotta remember that after all we've seen throughout Taizai, we gotta remember that all the sins, how they got their sin, for instance, the sin of wrath, to the sin of, greed, to the sin of, lust, to the sin of, now gluttony, and then, the sin of pride, all these little things we've gotten over the course of the series, we do know that these sins, their backstory, even though they got the sin of greed or something, it necessarily wasn't them really being greedy. It was something else in how they obtained this sin, and it was just a misunderstanding. I mean, let's look at Galther and what happened to him. So when you think about it like that, maybe there's a lot more to this story than we really know. Most likely Merlin could have been doing something to try to save her village, but she couldn't in the end, and that resulted in the village being burnt to the ground. Who knows? But I just want to point out, I don't think Merlin necessarily is outright a bad person. There most likely is a lot more to the story than we actually know at this time. Anyways, though, let's talk about one big thing here. What Merlin actually did with the details we got in this chapter. So Merlin, the reason why she had to make a deal with the Goddess Clan and the Demon Clan was because they wanted her. Obviously, even though it's a neutral town, a neutral faction and all that, they needed Merlin's power, because she would definitely be a crucial asset to the war. She would be a crucial part, and so obviously one of the clans wanted her, and so they each individual tried to contact them, and eventually Merlin decided to set up an agreement, a deal with each individual one behind the scenes. She was playing both parties basically. So she went to the Demon Clan. She asked for the Demon Clan to teach her all sorts of top secret demon magic and stuff, and the ability to actually resist the Goddess Clan, take over your mind type abilities, where you can't be brainwashed. So Merlin can no longer be brainwashed by the Goddess Clan. She's immune to their stuff and their magic basically, and she knows top secret arts and stuff in the demon realm. So Merlin had a big gain in knowledge in that moment when she was talking to the Demon King. And then on the Goddess side, she talked to the Goddess side about being able to overcome demon magic and also being able to resist or be immune to the commandments, which that is insane. That automatically makes Merlin even crazier than we already thought she was in the first place, because it's not the fact she has infinity. She actually has the ability to negate commandments. She has the ability to resist goddess mind control. She has the ability to use other demon arts that we probably haven't even seen before. This explains why Merlin knows so much, why she's so crazy when it comes to her knowledge and magic and all that, is because of what she has learned. Now, here's the big thing I do want to point out, though. Now, I know many are going to be pointing out a big, crucial aspect of the story, thanks to finding out these details about Merlin. As we know, thanks to this chapter, Merlin apparently is immune to commandments. That's what was stated. Or she's, resistant. The wording, most likely, it's probably a little bit off. Most likely translation issue. It's probably a little bit wonky. If any of you can actually read the original source, the original Japanese part of this, chapter, please do so and let me know what it actually meant in your own words. Basically, for all we know, that word, when it said she was, immune to commandments or whatever, it most likely could mean resistant. Because that's an entirely different meaning. Resistant and immune. and so for all we know, Merlin could be resistant, which would go along with what happened in the past. So let me explain. As we know, a long time ago, when, Galan, the commandment, Galan and all that, he turned Merlin to stone. And we do know that Merlin, she had her soul or spirit separate from her body, she went into her sacred treasure, and eventually she was able to free her body, and everything was fine. And she did this without anyone else really helping her. So that automatically was very different from anything else we've seen, because from what we found out about commandments, the only way for a commandment to actually, be gone is thanks to, like, the demon that placed it on to kind of lift it, which we saw in this chapter, like Zeldris and all that, the Demon King and all of that, and basically, or to die. And that is what we've seen already. We've seen multiple ways of how a commandment can go away. And Merlin did something completely different that we haven't seen, and it was just like, yo, I mean, we all took it for granted, thinking it was because of her ability, Infinity, and that's how she was able to do it. But there was a lot more to that than we actually knew. Apparently, she is very resistant / immune to commandments, which is why she was able to get out in the first place, which that is some foreshadowing for this part of the chapter. But like I said, though, there's a difference between immune and resistant, and the translation could be kind of messing something up here, and so we do need some clarification of that if it was resistant or immune, and it would probably make you question, like, wait a minute, why did she get turned to stone in the first place a long time ago? I mean, she ended up being fine, but she did get turned into stone at the end of the day, so it does make you wonder how did that happen if she is apparently immune to the commandments, unless she is resistant, and that's the big thing there. So, anyways, putting that aside, though, we go over into the Zeldris stuff. So Zeldris obviously is trying to make a deal with Merlin. Well, not necessarily a deal at the start. He just wanted the commandment. He wanted Scylla and all that, and he wanted Merlin to give it over. And if Merlin didn't, obviously the sins were all going to get eradicated. And as we know, Zeldris is no joke. I mean, Merlin, probably is very aware of this as well. She may be very strong, but she's very aware that Zeldris is incredibly powerful. So you don't just mess with this man. So basically, he tries to go over to get Scylla and all that for the commandment, obviously. That's where the plot is starting to shift into. And Merlin decides to go to a different area to make this deal. Obviously, she places, like, this plan or whatever on Hawk's face for he can listen in on the conversation what Merlin is doing with Zeldris. Well, we get a bunch of background details on Merlin and basically how she is as a person. And eventually, the deal continues on to where she throws over Scylla, but she locks it in her, like, absolute, protection or absolute, shell or absolute, I forget the name of, oh my, absolute barrier, I think that's, I forget the name, please forgive me, but, she puts that spell on, Scylla and all that, where Zeldris can't, use it or even do anything with it. And she's like, okay, that's the first part of the deal. The next part, I want you to do something for me. And she goes along the lines of trying to figure out what she wants Zeldris to do. Either, give her Elizabeth, do something else, tell her different things. She's like, you know what? I want you to release your commandment off of certain people for they can be able to be free once again and make sure your demons don't attack them. And Zeldris like, you know what? Okay, fine. I will do that right now. That'll, cancel this cube off of it. And Merlin was about to do it and all that, but apparently we have the archangels coming in to initiate against Zeldris. So, a very interesting turn just happened. Basically, with the end of this chapter, Merlin once again did her specialty. She, manipulated other people. We got to see her manipulate Zeldris and play him into a trap, and she didn't technically do anything. She did follow along with what she said. She didn't necessarily lie, but she also used the Archangel to attack Zeldris, which that means that there's going to now be a new war between the Goddess Clan and the Demon Clan, and that's what's basically happening at the end of the chapter. So, is Zeldris hurt after that blast? I don't think so, no. No, he is a representative of the Demon King, and we've seen he's pretty strong. I do not believe he'd probably go down that easy, even after a blast like that. I just don't think so. So I am kind of curious on what's going to happen. I mean, are we going to have a full-scale battle between, like, Rudisill and, Zeldris? Is that actually going to happen? And another question I have is, where is Estarossa in all of this? Estarossa has been gone for a while. Where is he at? You know for a fact he's going to be around. So, for all we know, we could have Estarossa fighting Rudisill, which would be really cool if that does happen. I would love to see that. So, that's basically it when it comes to the chapter. The chapter overall was a good chapter. It was. It has a lot of questions I'm wondering about when it comes to Merlin, but I do like the fact that it was clarified that Merlin isn't the daughter of the Supreme Goddess and the Demon King. Now, that could still potentially be a thing in the future once we find out more details, but for now, though, it is confirmed she was just blessed by them, and she is not the daughter of them. So, there you go. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about, this week's chapter of Taizai, or last week's. Technically, we might have another chapter this week, depending on how it goes, but I love you guys. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe, stay healthy, and if you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like, and if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button down below. Love you guys. Please be safe. Chibi out.